Right, folks, good day and welcome as we look at the CAT Theory June 22, 2022 paper from the IEB. Okay, so here you can see again we have section A, section B, section C. So if you've been following all the videos so far and you've been looking at the DBE and the IEB, you'll see they're also broken up into these sections. This paper was also, it was about 150 marks at about 3 hours, and you can see how that is broken down. So let's just have a squiz through this again. You'll see we have our multiple choice. Instead of true and false, we have, sort of fill in the missing word or choose the correct term. We've got to match the column, and yeah, that sort of brings us to the end of section A. Section B, our system technologies, our hardware. So there immediately you can see a difference. Right, there's our specs of the PC. That's all question 4. Question 5, internet and network technologies. So guys, can you see the same sort of breakdown that we've had previously? Okay, so let's get started onto question number 1. So question 1 is multiple choice. So you should be familiar with this by now already, and we know that we first look at the question, we try and work out what the question is asking or wanting from us, and then we look at the options we have. So 1.1 says, which one of the following Excel errors? So I stop right there. Is this an Excel error? Is this an Excel error? Is this an Excel error? No, C is not. So these are all Excel errors. Now I already know C is out of the question. Which one of these occurs when the contents of a cell cannot fit inside the cell? And that is going to be B. Okay, we know that. I think that's from grade 10 already. 1.2, to enable them to keep track of information on several thousand employees, a large organization is likely to make use of what? A wiki? We know that's a collaborative website. So I don't think that's going to be an option. What about B? Do you think they're just going to use a spreadsheet to do that? Definitely not. This is where you see the difference between a spreadsheet and a database. When we talk about several thousand employees, we immediately look at database. We know a content aggregator. If you've been following my TikTok videos, you would know that a content aggregator is a piece of software that's actually bringing all the different things that you enjoy, whether it's websites or podcasts and things like that, into one specific place. So that's got nothing to do with this. And that is why our answer is C, database. Right, faking an email header. I can stop right there because I already know what that is going to be. But anyway, faking an email header to hide the actual origin of the email is known as what? That is going to be spoofing, right? Then 1.4, the what retains the data stored even when the power goes off. Okay, so already we know an ATM, that's where we draw money. We've got nothing to do with that. RAM, we know that's a temporary storage area. GPS is finding a place on a map, okay? Our location, our Google Maps, things like that. So what's the SSD? That's our solid state drive. That's a hard drive. Do we lose our files when we switch the PC off? I would hope not. We don't. So that's why 1.4 is going to be C. Moving on. 1.5, a malicious program. So a harmful program. We're talking about malware. That means we're talking about viruses and things like that. That uses a device that's infected to initiate a DDoS attack. What's a DDoS attack? That's a denial of service attack. So we need to look at what our options are. We're talking about a malicious program that uses a device. So it could be your computer, it could be your laptop, it could be your tablet, but it uses that device, which has now become infected, to initiate these kind of attacks. We know a worm replicates itself. A bot gets controlled remotely. A keylogger checks out your keystrokes. So in this case, we should be looking at our virus. Right, 1.6. A what is an audio interview / talk show which is derived over the internet And that's very simple. We know that's our podcast. Okay. When they say interview / talk show, we're going to go podcast. If they talk about like video or things like that, then we move on to vlog or our video podcast. Which of the following is an acronym for the term used to describe human errors? Oh, so I'm going to do this very simply. We know this is a small office, home office user. This is for our RAM. This is our central processing unit because it's a dual inline memory module. Dumb. And it's going to be C, garbage in, garbage out. 1.8, which one of the following utilities can be used to make more storage available by removing temporary files? Are we backing up? No, we want to remove temporary files. Disk defragmenter? No, it takes fragments of files and puts them back together. Recycle bin is where we delete things. So do you see, just by understanding these terms, we know it's B. And guys, this is how we can get everything right with our multiple choice. Which one of the following refers to a situation where a user is tricked into clicking on an item on a web page which acts as a concealed link? Your key here is tricked into clicking on an item on a web page. Spoofing, we've already explained what it is. Phishing, they're trying to con you into doing something, trying to bait you. And then farming is where, just think of like creating fake websites and things like that look like the original. And that leaves me with B, click jacking. Right? Like they're hijacking your car. They're hijacking what you're clicking on. From the list below, select the option which does not belong. In other words, the odd one out. Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, Outlook Express, Google Chrome. Let's have a look at this. Internet Explorer, this is a web browser. Is Mozilla Firefox a web browser? Yes, it is. Is Google Chrome a web browser? Yes, it is. Outlook Express, that's to do with email. You see which one is the odd one out? It is C. Now let's look at question number 2. And you can see this is slightly different from what we are used to with the DBE, where we had the true and false. I think the IEB has really gotten rid of the true and false now. So I think this was the last time that it was really used. All right, so choose the most appropriate term or function for each of the statements, right? Only the term or function of your choice in the space provided. And here we have our statement. The print screen key on the keyboard takes a screenshot and stores it in the, what are we using? What are we using? Are we saying clipboard or the cloud? That's going to be our clipboard. Okay? The cloud, remember, that's saving it onto the internet. I mean, we don't press that print screen to save things onto the internet every single time. Next one. Inkjet printing or laser printing. Which one of these involves printing which makes use of separate cartridges to transfer a document? Okay, the minute we talk about separate cartridges, we're talking about inkjet printing and not laser. Laser uses one cartridge called toner. Next one, sticky keys or an ergonomic keyboard. Which one of these allows disabled users to press a combination of keys such as Ctrl-Alt-Delete separately instead of together? Well, an ergonomic keyboard is just a keyboard that's designed to better suit the way you actually use it in terms of positioning, layout, typing, that type of thing. Sticky keys is when you can actually press the key down, and even though you lift your finger off it, it still remains like stuck down. So the PC registers it as still being kept in place. So the answer there is going to be sticky keys. Then 2.4, which one of these ports carries both audio and video? Well, self-explanatory. It's going to be HDMI. VGA only carries video. And then the last one for question 2, a motherboard or a network interface controller. Which one of these is a hardware component? So they are both hardware, which allows you to connect to a network. What's the first letter in this NIC? N. What does it stand for? Network. Do we need to know the answer? Yes, it's our network interface controller. And that's question 2. Right, then question 3 is our match the column And again, the same principle applies in that you get the explanation of the term. Here we have 10, and we have more than 10 either acronyms or terms, and we need to match them up. So as usual, let's look at column B. Let's see what we have. Well, we've got our near field communication. We've got an acceptable use policy. We've got DPI that refers to the quality of an image, especially with scanning. Surveys, print per minute. So that's the speed of our printing. Our OCR, optical character recognition software. This is for Wi-Fi speeds. Our ransomware. So immediately we think of cryptocurrency here that's used in ransomware. Our OLE object, we know that's from access when we want to insert an attachment as a data type. Our botnets, okay, that's our malware, voice over IP, so we think of things like WhatsApp, spyware, software that's watching your move on your PC, ROM, your read-only memory, FTP, transferring large files over the internet, default value access, and extensions. Okay, so now that we have a good idea of what we are dealing with, let's go and look at the explanations that we have. The first one says software that's used to convert hard copy text into digital text that can be edited. There's your main thing, edited. That is going to be OCR, right? OCR software does that. Technology for sending voice communications over the internet. Voice communications over IP, the internet protocol. So that is K. 3.3, a policy that defines users' rights and responsibilities within a network. What does the AUP do? Acceptable use policy. It's a policy that defines what a user can do within a given network. 3.4, a type of memory where computer's startup instructions are stored. So there's permanent storage in this type of memory, and that's read-only memory, our ROM. 3.5, a data type in access used to store graphics, sound, and video. Guys, can you see, because we went through this, we can work out very quickly what the answers are. In this case, we know this is going to be, where's OLE? OLE. A unit of measurement for printing solutions. What is that going to be? Remember I spoke about the quality of our image. Here, specifically with our printing resolution, it's going to be DPI, or dots per inch. A set of questions for research purposes that will be answered electronically. Well, there it's our survey. 3.8, malware. So malicious software, harmful software, often associated with Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. What did I say with ransomware? Yeah, it is malicious software associated with cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. And they'll say Bitcoin because it's the most popular one that people recognize. 3.9, a set of characters added to the end of a file name that identifies the type of file. Well, there we go, extension. And then 3.10, a field property, so we're talking about access, that automatically inserts a value in a field for each new record in a database. And that should be fairly simple to answer because that is your default value. Guys, and just like that, that is question 3, and that's the first 25 marks of this paper. Right, so now we are in section B, and this comprises of a number of questions. This is usually question 4 till about question 7 or 8. Let's just see. Yeah, this is 4 till 8. Okay, so let's start on question number 4, and we are dealing now with system technologies. And the first thing that you'll see, again, this is something that comes through fairly often with the IEB papers, is the fact that they want you to be able to identify the pieces of hardware just by having a look at them. So without doing anything further, if we just look at these pieces of hardware, what are they and what do they do? That's the basis of the questions that are going to follow. So if I just look at this picture over here, I can see, well, this is some sort of a card, some sort of expansion card. It's got 2 fans on the card, which means it's designed to keep it nice and cool. For those of us who are familiar with this wheel, will know that this is a graphics card. Now, why, if your laptop comes with graphics, comes with a VGA port, and things like that, why would you need something like this? Well, to give you better graphics, to allow the computer to actually produce images and graphics very quickly. Okay, especially when we talk about 3D graphics and gaming and things like that. That's why this is specifically for gaming. On the right hand side, we see a stick of RAM, our random access memory. We can't exactly see what size it is, but this is our dual inline memory module RAM. The next two, and if we just look at maybe 4.4 first, we can see that that's a motherboard. That's the largest circuit board in our system unit. And what is it there for? Well, besides being the largest circuit board, it's the board that connects all the other devices to it. So our hard drive plugs in here, our memory plugs in here, our peripherals plug into it, our CPU plugs into it, all of that. And then this funny alien looking type device. What is that? Well, that is a router. And the reason you've got these things sticking out, these are actually antenna. And the idea is that this is what then spreads the Wi-Fi, or takes our wired signal and turns it into a wireless one to spread through our home. So when we look at what they actually want from us in question 4, you can see you need to name the device, as we did, and state its main function. So 4.1 would be our graphics card. And again, like I mentioned to you, it's to allow the computer to produce graphics and images very quickly. It's there to enhance the graphics on the machine. The 4.2 is my memory. And remember, that is an electronic temporary storage area for the instructions and data a computer needs. We've got our router, a wireless router. And what is its main function? Well, it's there to help me connect to the internet. And then my motherboard, my large circuit board in the system unit that allows other components to connect to it. Okay, and that's how I get an easy 8 marks, just from being able to identify that. 4.5, they say identify the specific port highlighted in the picture below and list 3 peripherals. So this is 4 marks. For 1 mark, they just want me to identify what this is. Now, what is this? This is a USB port. You don't have to tell me USB version 2, version 3. That's irrelevant. All we want to know is that this is a USB port. That's 1 mark. Then the other 3 says list 3 peripherals. In other words, 3 external items that can plug into this to connect to the PC. So what do you connect? What sort of devices do you connect to your PC via a USB port? Maybe it's an external hard drive, a flash drive, a printer, a scanner, anything like that. Okay? Any 3 of those devices, and that's how you'd end up getting 4 marks. Then Old Faithful, 4.6, the specs of a PC. So I'm going to go through this slowly, and you'll see why it's important to understand what's happening here before I even go any further. Now, when I see this advert, I need to ask myself a few questions. The first of which is, well, is this a laptop or a desktop? And how do I know? Well, let's look at this. The first spec I've got here is AMD Ryzen 9 3.4 gigahertz. Okay, so immediately what I see is this speed will always relate to the CPU. So this must be my CPU specs. This then is the manufacturer of the CPU, the company that manufactured the central processing unit. The Ryzen 9 is going to be the model number, and then this 3.4 gigahertz is the speed at which that CPU is operating at. Okay, nice bit of info for the first line. Does that tell me whether it's a laptop or a desktop? No. The next line says it's got a 17-inch screen. It gives me the resolution. So I know that's like a full HD screen. and it gives me the refresh rate, right? 144 hertz, which means it's going to be a very nice fluid picture that's going to be showing on the screen. Is that telling me whether this is a laptop or a desktop? Maybe, but yeah, not quite. There's a word I was looking for here. The next one, a 256 gig, so that's the size of the SSD. That's my solid state drive. That refers to the newest type of hard drive. So it's a storage device. It's where I save my files and folders, which means that this is a permanent form of storage. This is then what is known as my secondary memory, right? The next one is my primary memory. This is my RAM. This is the size of the RAM, 8 gigs, and then the model, which is DDR3, so it refers to the speed model of this particular RAM. So this will always be my primary memory, and the hard drive size or SSD will be my secondary memory. Then they tell me this machine has 4 USB ports, 1 HDMI, 1 USB-C port, 1 VGA port. Is that telling me whether it's a desktop or a laptop? Is this telling me? No, not yet. Full HD webcam. Okay, nice. So what is this? This tells me this is a wireless standard, which means this device can communicate with wireless devices. It can connect wirelessly, and these letters refer to the speed, the megabits per second that it can operate at. So it's able to operate on B, G, and N. Now I'm getting somewhere. Because does my desktop do this? Something to think about. Then I've also got a multi-card reader. Now you need to ask yourself, do you find multi-card readers in just every desktop PC that you buy? Something to think about. But have a look here. This is the one spec you look at. This thing has a 6-cell battery. Now, if this, and this is a laptop will always talk about a battery. When it comes to your desktop machines, they'll always talk about a power supply. So when I look at my specs here and I don't see a power supply, but I see battery, I know this is a laptop. If it has no battery, but it says power supply, then I know it's a desktop. Also, with screen here, this refers to like a built-in screen the way you find on a laptop. But if it said monitor, it would refer to a separate physical peripheral. Okay. And then at the bottom, I've got Office 365, and I've purchased a 1-year license to use that software. So can you see, just by going through this, it's going to allow me to answer the next couple of questions fairly quickly. Let me show you. 4.6.1, identify the computing device. We know that it's a laptop. Why? Because this spec says battery. Done. Indicate the size of the primary memory in the advert and explain its function. Primary memory, RAM. So we put that size down and we actually explained it up here. Okay. 4.6.3. What does the spec 1920 times 1082 tell you about the computer in the ad? Well, like I said, it's the resolution of the screen, the quality of the image. Many computing devices, especially portable devices, come with built-in technology which can identify and help you connect to Wi-Fi zones and hotspots. Which specification in the ad above tells you that it has wireless capability? Well, we discussed that. The Aero 2.11 B/G/N. 4.6.5. Give 2 possible reasons why an SSD is specified for this. While the SSDs are smaller, they are faster, they use less electricity, they are just physically better for laptops. 4.6.6. Does the computing device identified in the ad have an optical drive? What are we referring to? When we talk about optical drives, we're talking about CD-ROMs, DVD-ROMs, Blu-rays. Does it have that? No. And then you could give an example like CD, DVD, Blu-ray. 4.6.7, what is the make and model of the CPU in the ad? The make, AMD, the model, Ryzen 9. And then the last one, which of the specifications above is the most common cell phone charging connector today? Well, the only one that we see here, and the one that's most common, is our USB Type-C. And guys, there we go. That's question 4, 25 marks. Done. Then question 5 deals with internet and network technologies as per normal. And here we have a scenario. Your school has a computer lab that has been around for several years and is becoming outdated in terms of the hardware, software, and the networking infrastructure being used. They would now like to upgrade. Here we go. Upgrade their lab and network. So we're talking about improving the physical devices, the cabling, the switches, the network on the whole, maybe adding some wireless, increasing the speed, all those type of things. You've been asked to provide some advice on upgrades necessary to bring the lab up to modern standards. Okay, so the first thing they then ask us, so we now have an idea of what they want, and we bear that in mind. So 5.1 asks, what is the general function of a server? Well, we know that a server is a very powerful computer, and it provides services to clients on the network. For example, file services and print services. 5.2. The network at the school is termed a LAN, a local area network. What does that mean? Well, that's exactly what they're asking for. Okay, so the acronym stands for Local Area Network. And they ask us, what are the advantages of this type of network? Well, it means that hardware resources can be shared. The internet can be shared. I can have users being able to access their information wherever they can connect to a PC that's on the network. All right, 5.3. The school wants to set up an intranet for its students. So this is different from your internet. Your intranet is an internet-like environment. So it looks the same like the internet. You're still using a browser, but it only exists within an organization's network. And yeah, they actually ask us for that. Explain how this differs from a normal website. Well, a normal website is just a collection of related web pages. That's the first point. The next point is then to define what an intranet is, which is what I mentioned earlier. It's an internet-like environment, which exists only within an organization's network. Right, moving on. We're almost done with this question again. As part of the basic network infrastructure upgrades, the switches, network cables, and internet line will be upgraded. The internet will move to a 50 meg per second fiber installation, and the network cables to Cat6 UTP, or unshielded twisted pair cabling. Now they ask us, what's the difference between a 50 meg ADSL and 50 meg fiber internet installation, and specifically mention how the data is transferred on each line. Okay, so first things first, the difference here is that fiber is faster and more stable than ADSL. That's how I'm going to get my 1 mark. The next one, we need to understand that with ADSL, the data is transferred via electrical cables, right? Fiber has the data being transferred via light through glass fiber cables. Okay, so here you can see that's your traditional cable over there. Your electrical signals go through there, whereas here are your glass fiber tubes, and the data goes through via light. You can see there's another picture of our fiber cables. 5.5, the fiber line will be used as the backbone of the network. What does that mean? Well, it just means it's that part of the network which interconnects the networks and provides a path for the exchange of info between different LANs. Okay, so importantly, I'm going to say it again, it's the part of the network which interconnects the different networks. So if you've got a LAN at your school with different buildings, the fiber backbone is what connects all of these together. Then they want us to look at the specs below on the network card. This is an expansion card. I can see that slots into my motherboard. It's got a network card port on it, which means I'm going to plug my network cable in there. And then it's telling me 10100. What this means is that the speed at which data is transferred through this network card. In other words, when I go into the network and I want to copy things, when I go into the, copy files and folders and move things around, it's going to move at a minimum of 10 megabits per second and a maximum of 100 megabits per second. What it also says is that it supports 802.11g, and that's a wireless standard. So this card can give me, or can connect to a network both wired and wirelessly. Right, what is the 5.6.2, what is the 802.11g specification refer to? That's a wireless standard, and with G, that is the third generation, so you're looking at speeds, it's supporting speeds up to 54 megabits per second. Then let's see where we are. 5.7. Explain why a network can still be infected with a virus even if the network does not have an internet connection. Well, you can get a virus from a flash drive, from files transferring over the network without it even having an internet connection. And then 5.8, they wanted us to know what the main function of the following hardware devices are. A switch. Well, this is a hardware device that connects other devices together. So if you have, for example, 3 classrooms that have networks, you'll have a switch in each one of those classrooms and you'll have cables connecting the switches to one another. Whereas a router is a hardware device that connects your network to the internet. And that's question 5 for 15 marks. So question 6 and 7, they are usually short questions, around about 10 marks each. So let's have a look. Information management question 6. It says, you've just completed your PAT and handed it in. Explain 2 ways in which your teacher can detect whether you've committed plagiarism or not. Well, we can use online plagiarism checkers, online plagiarism software. We can check references. We can check if there are no references given. Those are all ways in which we can do that. 6.2, mention one way to avoid getting many different or unrelated results when searching the internet. So you go to Google and you just type in one word and you get a whole lot of things. If you don't want all of that info, well, then use specific words, use specific phrases, refine your search, use advanced search options, do all of those things. And it'll help you find exactly what you want to find on the internet. 6.3, indicate one way to present your data visually in a spreadsheet. Well, how do we do that visually? We use charts. Okay, charts and graphs. 6.4, surveys are a great way of gathering information from people. Today, most of these are done through electronic forms such as Google Forms. Give 2 advantages of using an electronic form besides the ease and speed with which the data is collected. Well, these electronic forms can be submitted immediately. They can be sent via email, they can be sent via your phone, they can be filled in anytime, anywhere. So those are just a few of the practical advantages. Then 6.5, as we finish up here, says, consider the website address below and answer the questions. This is from Wikipedia. What is a wiki? Well, it's, first of all, a collaborative website. And the idea is that you've got a community of users where you can upload, you can edit, content and things like that. So that's what a wiki is. Based on that 6.5.2, why would universities not allow students to reference or quote from Wikipedia? Well, because this is a collaborative website, the reliability and credibility of the sources and the source of information might be questionable. And then 6.5.3, as we round off question 6, give a general method one could use to verify information obtained from the source. Well, if you do get sources from Wikipedia, you can always check it with an online fact checker. You can check the reference to see if it's actually correct and true. Okay, question 7, social implications. And the first one they throw up is define the term social engineering. Well, we know this term refers to the act of misleading or manipulating people to obtain confidential info for fraudulent purposes. Okay, so the 2 marks are going to come from the act of misleading or manipulating people. And why are they trying to do that? To obtain confidential info to commit fraud or for fraudulent purposes, whichever way you want to say it. 7.2, based on your answer to 7.1, lists 2 ways in which you can avoid becoming a victim. Well, don't respond to unknown email. Don't click on links that are sent to you via an SMS. If something's too good to be true, leave it alone. Use a spam filter on your emails. Don't click on links in suspicious emails, and don't do personal tasks on public computers. You don't want to do that. Right, 7.3. There we go. This comes up often. Many people who work for long hours in front of computers should opt for more ergonomically designed chairs. There's that term, ergonomics, right? And as usual, they're going to ask us, what does it mean? So 7.3.1, define the term. Well, ergonomics is the study of people in their working environment. Simple as that. Simple as that. Then they scaffold onto that and ask us, well, state 2 health benefits of an ergonomically designed chair. So we're talking about people who sit in front of their computer, working for long hours at a time, and for them, they should opt for a more ergonomically designed chair because it offers health benefits. And here, 7.3.2, they ask us to give 2 of those health benefits. Well, the first and probably main one is just back support. Okay, that's a big one. It also then, if it gives support to your back, it allows you to sit for longer periods of time. And many of them are height adjustable and have armrest support, neck support, a nice headrest, all these type of things. So there are a number of benefits, especially health benefits around using this type of equipment. Then 7.4, the main speaker at an ICT event which you attended spoke about the costs of implementing ICT systems within companies. He mentioned that people have always criticized these systems due to the expense associated with the implementation. Now, he's got a point, right? All this tech can be a bit expensive to implement. So 7.4.1 asks, mention 1 way in which ICT can increase the running costs of a company besides the initial purchase. Well, what about the maintenance? Cost of upgrading, cost of staying up to date with the hardware and the software. Okay. And then 7.4.2, provide 2 practical ways in which ICT could save a company money. Well, they can save the company money by not printing as much. So they save the company the cost of paper. They save the company on communication methods. Instead of flying like all the directors in for a meeting, you can just do that over the internet. They can save on advertising by using the internet, and unfortunately, they can even save on labor, which is good, but it's also not that good because it puts people out of work. Right. And that brings us to the end of question 7. And now we move on to question 8, where usually we have a couple of questions that come from the prac work. Okay. So let's have a look at it. Solution development. 8.1. For which category of disabled user is it important to use Microsoft Word's accessibility checker? This is going to be for anyone who has some sort of visual impairment. Okay? That accessibility checker is for those who are visually impaired. Then here's a prac question. Name the spreadsheet function used to insert the current date and time. There's your clue. Current date and time. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Let me open this. What are we going to do? We got that. Date and time equals now. Right, 8.3, give two different methods to set the indents in a word processing document. Well, I can indent it via the ruler up here. I can use the tab dialog box. So I can go and fiddle around with the tabs. I can do that. I can use a style, or I can just use the indents. Okay, so any of those will do. The restrict editing feature on the developer tab. Restrict editing feature over here will allow you to control the number of changes that others can make to your electronic form. Give one example. Well, I can prevent formatting changes. I can force all changes to be tracked. Let me actually just click on this. There you can see editing restrictions. And I can say what I want to allow. I can say what I want to limit and when I want to enforce it. Okay, so any of those. When working with track changes, so if we go up to review and we go to our track changes over here, accepting changes, tracking changes, what is the potential risk of using accept? Well, if I just say accept all changes, I might accept changes that I don't actually want or changes that I shouldn't have accepted. Right, 8.6. This one says you try to open a particular word processing file which you know you definitely saved on your computer. Explain why this file does not appear in the list when you browse for the file. Well, maybe it's a hidden file, right? Maybe you are looking for the wrong file, but it could very well be that you've hidden the file, or you need to select the all files option. So when I go open, browse over here, I can say all files, right? It might bring it up over there. Yeah, alternatively, it could be a hidden file as well. Then 8.7, a logo must appear at the top of each page in an access report. So we are now in access. We're looking at reports. In which section of the report and design must the logo be placed? Well, that's going to be in the report header. 8.8, why should a table range in a VLOOKUP function have an absolute cell reference? Now, why do we use absolute cell referencing? So that when we use our autofill function, the reference to that particular range or cell will remain in place. It doesn't change because we're using a VLOOKUP function. The purpose of the absolute reference still remains the same. Then 8.9, see, I think we almost, yeah, there's a few more. 8.9, the following message appeared when you ran a database inquiry. Give two reasons why the database requires you to enter a parameter value. Like, why would it do that? Well, number one, the country or region field might not exist. There could be incorrect spelling. That's why you could be getting something like this. Maybe the criteria in that query requires a particular value. So any one of those would do. Then 8.10, give two tips or hints that will help you to prevent errors. Okay, so we seem to still be in the Access database. We're still talking about Access. So how do we prevent those errors? But let me see. No. We're talking now about HTML. Yeah, it says, or that will assist you with troubleshooting when coding HTML. So we want something to help us prevent errors when we are in HTML. Well, we can use indentation for different sections. We can put in comments. We can make sure we're using our HTML tag sheet. We can use color coding options. I know in Notepad++ it has that. And we can use the different features in our text editors, more Notepad++ than you'll use in normal Notepad. 8.11, while viewing a web page in a browser, you decide that you would like to examine the HTML code. What would you do to display the code of that particular web page? Well, I can use the view source feature of the web browser. I can press F12 to inspect. I can even right-click on it on the web page and say view source. Or I can download the page from the internet and open it in a different editor. And then the last one, 8.12. What is the purpose of the small square? Now we know what that is in the bottom right hand corner of cell C1. That is for our autofill feature. So when we click on it and we drag that down, it's going to implement the autofill, and whatever formula I've got in there is going to come down here as well. Alternatively, if it's just a normal number, it's just going to go 54, 55, 56. Right. And that's how I get my 15 marks for question 8. And that's it for section B, worth 75 marks. Right, learners, here we go. The last section, section C of our June 2022 CAT Theory paper. And it is the last question as well. So it's only question 9. Right. So this is a big one worth 50 marks. So let's see what we need to do. Okay. Remember, as we saw with the DBE papers and the other IEB paper, question 9 is generally an integrated scenario. So let's look at the scenario that we are facing here. As part of the school's annual Founders Day program, your school will be organizing video conferences with some famous past pupils who made a significant contribution to the school and furthered its name in the public domain. The school hall, which can seat 300 people, so bear that in mind, is prepared as the venue to host, here we go, the video conferences. So already get your mind in order. Video conferences, what does that mean? That means steady internet. That means a projector. That means a laptop. That means audio. Looking at quality when it comes to the image that's appearing on the screen. Looking at lighting in the hall. Looking at where people are seated. All of those things. Just bear that in mind before we even get to the questions. Okay. Now let's go. First of all, 9.1, give 2 benefits of connecting with these famous ex-learners via video conferencing rather than a normal telephone call. Well, one of the main benefits is the fact that you'll actually be able to see the person. You'll be able to pick up on gestures and body language. When you're doing like a Google Meet or Zoom, you can have multiple people on the screen at the same time. So any of those will do. 9.2. Name one other way of electronic communication that can be used to connect with these persons that will give the same benefits as video conferencing. Well, I can also do a webinar, like a video call or a video chat. It will give me the same thing as video conferencing. All right. Name one other software application other than Zoom. Well, I just mentioned earlier about the Google Meet, Google Hangouts, Adobe Connect, this TeamViewer. There's Skype, any one of these you can use. Right, does this look familiar? Our specs of the PC. So they say here, a laptop with the following specs will be used as the device to facilitate the video conferences. 2.5 gigahertz Intel Core i5, that seems good enough. Windows 10 Professional 64-bit, good. 4 gigs of RAM, might be a little problem. 500 gig hard drive, that's a traditional hard drive. How do I know that? Not just because it's saying hard drive, but, and this one doesn't say SSD to indicate that it's a solid state drive, but the fact that it's saying speed. Now, this relates to the revolutions per minute. Remember those disks inside the old hard drives that are spinning? That's the speed at which it's spinning. Hard drive type there, they tell us a SATA drive, which is your normal drives. 14-inch screen, resolution, not too great. Video memory, 1 gig, okay, not too bad. Shame it started out okay. It's not ending so well. All right, let's look at the questions. So 9.4.1, what unit is the screen resolution measured in? Well, we know that's generally our pixels, you can say megapixels as well, but generally our pixels. 9.4.2, why is it advisable to upgrade the RAM to 8 gigs? Well, the more RAM we have, the more temporary storage we have. This helps when it comes to buffering. This helps when it comes to the processing speed of the computer. It helps with the graphics. So RAM helps, everything on your PC just operate that much smoother and better. 9.4.3, the size of the laptop's display is only 14 inches, which is hopelessly too small for everyone to view in the hall. Based on this, Answer the following. What can be done to make the video conferences possible for everyone to see? Well, we could use a projector. We could set up a big screen. We could set up multiple TVs, anything like that, any one of those. Then also there's no HDMI port available. What does the HD stand for? It stands for high definition. That's the first thing. And explain why it's important for video conferencing to have such a port. Because these cables, this port allows us to transfer video and audio through to a device. Okay, whether it's to a projector and things like that. Whereas our VGA only does video. Right, next one. All video conferences will be recorded and saved to the hard drive. Why would the size of the hard drive be a concern? Guys, this is only a 500 gig hard drive. Okay? Only a 500 gig hard drive. Think of your cell phones. Most of you want like 128 gigs of space or like 256 gigs. Now this laptop only has 500 gigs. And what if it's a long video conference? Okay, so to me the size is going to be an issue because you will be working with large files, especially if it's of a very good quality. Next one, give 2 reasons why it would be better to use an SSD. Well, an SSD is faster, it's smaller, it's more robust, it's more durable, there's no moving parts, there's no noise. Do I need to give more reasons? Probably not. Okay. 9.4.5, name 2 essential devices that need to be added to make the video conferencing possible. Okay. I'm going to need a microphone because the built-in one is not going to be adequate. I'm going to need speakers. I'm going to need a web camera. I'm going to need maybe a video camera. Okay, so any of those, any relevant 2 they'll take. And then which 2 specs above will make it possible for the laptop to connect to the internet? Let's go back. To connect to the internet, CPU, operating system, RAM, hard drive, no. Display, resolution, no. Video memory, no. Ports, USB, no. Card slots, no. Warranty, no. So what are we left with? We've got if we look at our ports, we've got an Ethernet port. That's where our network cable plugs into. Is that going to allow us to connect to the internet? Yes. What about Wi-Fi? It's got built-in Wi-Fi capability, so that'll allow us to connect to the internet. So there, my 2 answers are going to be, let's see, it's going to be the Wi-Fi and the Ethernet port. Okay, name the latest version of the Windows operating system. That was Windows 10 Professional. Okay, so there we've got that. 9.4.8. Yeah, we're there now. 9.4.8, name an open source operating system. Do you remember those OSS operating systems? Open source operating. So when we think of open source software, remember it was software that was free to download, use, distribute, and edit. Remember our examples. Linux. There's Open Solaris as well. So while they are examples of open source software, which is correct, are they operating systems? Yes, they are. So a typical example here for 9.4.8 would be Linux. Then 9.4.9, why is it significant to have a 4-in-1 card reader slot? Well, so that we can read from different memory cards. Okay, there are different sizes, different shapes. So this is why some of these laptops have these card readers. Okay, 9.5, you can see a few questions here. To ensure the smooth operation on the day of the video conferencing, the school's technician decides to do some housekeeping on the laptop. Explain why it is necessary to, number 1, update to the latest release of a service pack. Well, remember our service packs deal with our bug fixes, latest drivers, latest security features. So that's why it is necessary to do that. It can fix any issues that are already there or that might be creeping in on the day you already know you've sorted that out. Why is it important? Number 2, to update the antivirus. Well, you want the latest antivirus. You want the latest definitions. You want to have the PC being protected from viruses. So that's why we do that. And then why do you want to defragment the hard drive? Well, you don't want anything to slow the computer down. You also want to speed up access to the files. And that's why you'll do a defragmentation. Okay, hope you're still with me. 9.6. The school is contemplating or it's thinking about saving recordings of the video conferences on a cloud server. That's onto the internet, something like Dropbox, Google Drive, things like that. Name 2 disadvantages in saving the recordings to a cloud server. How do you access a cloud server? Through the internet. So if you don't have that, you won't be able to access it. What about security? What about the fact that most of these cloud storage areas limit the amount of space you have? So you don't have unlimited space. So those are the things you need to think about. Name 1 cloud storage service. Well, Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, any of those. Okay, if you have a valid example as well, that should be accepted. 9.7. The school will now compile all the video recordings to a DVD and decides to make use of crowdfunding to finance the production of the DVD. So already we're going to ask the first question, what is crowdfunding? Well, simply put, it's the process where a single idea, you have an idea about a particular business or a product, and this, you then put it out onto the internet in order to get donations and contributions from people out there who like the idea. So people donate any amount, and then you can take those funds and actually, create the product or service. Number 2, name 1 benefit for the contributors in crowdfunding. Again, if you've been following my TikTok videos, I've done all of this. The contributors sometimes receive the product when it's done. Sometimes they get a mention. Sometimes they get the product early before everyone else. So any one of those. And then they want you to give an example, and you can use sites like GoFundMe, Rocket Hub, and CrowdRise. Those are all examples. Okay, 9.8, the school wants to broaden the reach of the celebrations and decides, to stream the video conference live. Oh, yeah, we're going to have problems with the actual internet. The minute you do streaming, you've got to look at the speed of your internet connection. Just saying. So 9.8.1, compare the live streaming of the video conferences with the availability of it on DVD by looking at the benefits of both of them. Okay, so they basically saying here, is live streaming better than the DVD? Well, with the DVD, I've got it for life. It's going to be cheaper than live streaming. I can view it as many times as I want to, and it's portable. I can give it to whoever I want to. With live streaming, it's going to be live. There's going to be a much wider reach. You can incorporate different, content, and people can actually interact on the live as well. So those are the different options there. Number 2, give 2 reasons why having a broadband uncapped data bundle would be the better package for live streaming. Well, because you need that so that you don't buffer, so that you've got a smooth view of your stream, and that you can stream faster, right? Number 3, name 2 aspects that will impact on the cost of the live streaming the conferences. Well, how many connections do you want to this? What sort of speed are you looking at from your internet connection? You might have to increase that. If you're just using data, you're going to need to use a lot of data if you're going to live stream these conferences. So those are some of the things you want to bear in mind. Right, let's go into the next section. 9.9. What are the ergonomic considerations that need to be considered when setting up the school hall for video conferencing with regards to audience seating? Well, you want to make sure maybe the seats are adjustable, there's lower back support, there's an armrest. You want to make sure with lighting that there is sufficient light. You want to make sure that people can see everything that they need to. You need to make sure that it's dark enough so that the screen, the image on the screen stands out. You need to look at all those things. Then 9.10, name 3 ways in which video conferencing can improve education. Well, we can have interaction via multimedia. You can have virtual field trips, virtual visits to places, Learners can, review the recordings. I mean, the fact that you're watching this here now is a recording. So how can it improve? Well, Education with Mr. Hembury shows you how it can do that. And there are many other channels doing the same. 9.11, name 2, netiquette, the rules, etiquette rules, like having good manners when using the internet. Name 2 of those rules which apply when engaging in online communication such as video conferencing. Well, you want to first of all introduce yourself, you want to cut background noises, you want to make eye contact, you want to avoid interruptions. Make sure there's no one running around in the background. Okay, we've had a lot of this happen with our politicians, so yeah, you want to check that. You want to make sure your lighting is good. So those are just basics that I think most of us know, but yeah, we just need to remember that. 9.12, and we are almost done. The school uses a database, so access, to keep track of all items received through donations and sponsors. Provide 2 reasons why a database is more suitable than a spreadsheet. Well, because it's easier to capture the data. I can pull queries from that data. I can pull reports. I've got functions that I can use to summarize everything that I'm actually extracting from that data. So there are a number of reasons. 9.13, give one way to transfer graph data from a database to a spreadsheet without having to retype it all. So I've got graph data from a database to a spreadsheet. What am I going to do? I'm going to export it from Access to Excel, which means if I use Excel, I can import that file from Access into Excel. Okay, that's what I can do. And then my last question that brings section C to an end, question 9 to an end, and the paper to an end. 9.14, define the concept of e-learning and explain one advantage and one disadvantage of this type of learning. So we're talking about e-learning, that's education and training delivered over the internet, right? That's what it is. We are using, mobile devices, etc. So with advantages, your one simple advantage is I can access it anywhere, anytime, at home, on the road, whatever the case is. The one disadvantage is that I can only access this if I have access to the internet. That is going to be my one big disadvantage. And guys, with that, we bring our paper to an end. Thank you very much for joining me. I think we've covered all the theory papers now, and our next one will be looking at the prac papers.